Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. This is Liz from Senator McMorrow's office, filling in for Senator McMorrow. We're going to have a special presentation today, but I will play our opening clip now. Hello, everyone, again. Liz here from Senator McMorrow's office. Today, we're doing one of our special coffee hours of having a guest on. Today, we have Merissa from ACLU. We're going to be diving into the topic of reproductive rights, status nationally, statewide, and kind of where we are with that and a couple of the different aspects around the topic right now and kind of diving into that. So, Merissa, thank you for joining us. If you want to introduce yourself a little bit. And I don't see the presentation, so if you want to upload that again, I will get that open that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Merissa Kovach. I'm the Legislative Director of the ACLU of Michigan, and I am really appreciative of being invited here today to share with you what's happening with reproductive rights and particularly abortion care in this state, and in this country right now. I'm going to share with you what we're seeing happening across the country, what that national landscape for abortion rights is looking like, what that means for Michigan, and then what folks are doing to fight back in order to ensure that abortion rights can be protected in our state from now all the way into the future as indefinitely. So starting with start here with what we're looking at for the national landscape. So I think at this point, many of us are aware that the Supreme Court is poised to overturn Roe v. Wade. About a year ago, they took a case that challenges a Mississippi abortion ban. This is a law that's on the books that was passed in Mississippi that is an unconstitutional pre-viability ban. This is a ban on abortion care that the courts have consistently upheld, the Supreme Court, federal courts have upheld, is unconstitutional. So when the Supreme Court opted to take this case, which they simply could have not opted to take, they signaled that they were very comfortable with overturning Roe v. Wade and overturning that constitutional federal right to abortion. So we have known that this was coming for a long time. This is the trajectory that this country and the courts have been on for 10 years now. And what we learned 2 weeks ago, all of our fears were confirmed when the draft opinion for this case was leaked and showed that a majority of justices had voted to overturn Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, those cornerstone Supreme Court or decisions that have ensured for about 50 years now, the right to abortion in this country, and that they have voted to overturn it. So ultimately, that means that over 50% of residents in this country will lose access to abortion in their home states. There are 26 states that are poised as soon as Roe v. Wade is overturned to immediately revert back to old laws on the books that criminalize abortion. There are trigger laws on the books, which are laws that state that if Roe v. Wade is ever overturned, abortion would be illegal in their states. And so half of the states are poised to immediately prohibit abortion care and access in their states. And Michigan is one of those states. So Michigan has a law from 1931 that's still on the books that was never repealed. It's been dormant since Roe v. Wade. But when the Supreme Court overturns Roe, this is a law that could go back into effect. There's been some recent developments this week that I'll get into, but this has been our greatest fear, that Michigan overnight could become a state where abortion would be criminalized. And doctors who perform abortion care could be threatened with up to 15 years in prison just for providing that safe, necessary, sometimes life-saving health care. So what this law also does is any pharmacy that sells medication for abortion could be forced to record the name of patients, their prescription information, the name and address of their doctor in a registry. There's some very outdated, confusing language that calls into question whether physicians and pharmacists would be able to prescribe and provide medication abortion. So this means also, if this law were to go back into effect, Michigan residents, the closest place to access care would be in Illinois and New York. So at a minimum, a 5-hour, anywhere from a 2 or 5 hour drive for most folks in the state, but we're looking at up to like 10, 14, 15 hours for many people in order to be able to access care outside of the state. But the reality of being able to access abortion care has not been realized for a lot of people in the state for a long time also. When we talk about abortion rights and your right to abortion in Michigan, it really means nothing if you can't access the care you need. And folks who live in rural areas, folks who are lower income, folks who live in northern Michigan and the UP have always faced great hurdles in the state to accessing the care they need. There is not an abortion provider north of Saginaw, Michigan that provides surgical abortion. That means the entire northern part of the lower peninsula, the entire upper peninsula, they have to travel hours and hours and long distances. So this will certainly exacerbate what many folks in Michigan have already been feeling for a long time in not being able to access this necessary health care that they need. But I'm gonna, instead of ending on this depressing note, we've had a bit of good news this week, and I'm gonna explain now what folks are doing to fight back in order to ensure that Michigan residents don't lose this essential healthcare and don't lose their rights to being able to decide if, when, or how to become a parent, when, if to discontinue a pregnancy. So there is a multi-pronged strategy. And as the ACLU of Michigan, we made a vow that we were going to use every single tool in our toolbox to fight for folks in Michigan and fight to preserve these rights, no matter what the Supreme Court does. So one of those strategies is a lawsuit. We're the ACLU. It's often what we're known for. We have partnered with Planned Parenthood. We filed a lawsuit in early April on behalf of Planned Parenthood and one of their physicians to block the enforcement of this 1931 law, this 90-year-old felony abortion ban. And we filed that lawsuit arguing that it was a violation of Michiganders' constitutional rights under the Michigan Constitution and state civil rights laws. We received some good news on Tuesday. The Michigan Court of Claims, where we filed the lawsuit, issued a preliminary injunction that temporarily blocks this 1931 abortion ban from going into effect. What that means is it gives us a chance to breathe. It gives us some relief so that when Roe is overturned, likely in a matter of next week, whether it's next week, whether it's in the next month, that our abortion providers don't have to close their doors, that Michiganders aren't going to lose their right to abortion overnight, that this gives us an opportunity to fight in court without Michigan immediately facing these devastating effects of the overturning of Roe, without us immediately falling into a public health and a human rights crisis in this state. So this was a good thing, but it still means that we have to keep on fighting. And that's why we've also committed ourselves to taking this to the people and putting this in the people's hands. So when we think about the lawsuit, we think of that as it's an essential shield. It is going to provide protection from these abortion bans going into effect in Michigan, from whatever the Supreme Court does, it is a protective measure. This ballot initiative strategy is what we consider the sword. This is what is going to give us a tool that we can use to fight with far into the future to protect not just your right to abortion, but your right to access all reproductive health care, any sort of health care that you need in order to make the best reproductive health decisions for yourself at all points in your life. So your right to access birth control, to refuse birth control, to your constitutional right to infertility treatment, miscarriage care, prenatal care, and childbirth. This amendment that we are hoping to pass would also make sure that no one goes to prison for providing safe medical care and that no one could be criminalized for their pregnancy outcomes. So this ballot initiative strategy is the result of was put together and organized by a coalition that includes the ACLU of Michigan, Michigan Voices, and Planned Parenthood Advocates of Michigan. It would, if put on the ballot and passed, it would amend the Michigan Constitution to establish a fundamental right to reproductive freedom. This would give us a tool that we could use to fight and challenge existing restrictions on abortion in the state. It would immediately invalidate that 1931 law. So this initiative is currently in the process of qualifying for the ballot. Voters need to collect 425,059 signatures before July 11th. There are folks in the street who are collecting these signatures and volunteering their time and trying to get this qualified for the ballot so that the people in Michigan can decide and have the power in ensuring that these rights are protected in Michigan for the long haul. So again, that lawsuit, that the ballot initiative strategy of engaging in this direct democracy, this is a 1-2 punch. It makes good on the promise that we and our coalition partners made early this year that we were going to use everything available to us to fight for this essential healthcare and fight for the rights of Michiganders. So I think with that, I will leave this up for a bit for anyone who needs to contact me. I've included my email address. If anyone is interested in the ballot initiative and learning more about it, the campaign is called Reproductive Freedom for All. The website is right here. And then also the ACLU of Michigan. If you're interested in learning more about us and what we do, I've included our website also if you'd like to take that down. But with that, I think I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions here. But now that we just talked about the ballot initiative, what is the process that a petition, a ballot initiative has to go through to become on the actual ballot itself? Because you said this one is currently in the collecting of signatures. So what is a process that has to go through?
Sure. So in Michigan, voters have an opportunity to bring initiatives to the people, to the ballot. And you can either bring an initiated law, a statute, or you can bring an amendment to the Michigan Constitution. This is an amendment to the Michigan Constitution. It requires a campaign to collect a certain number of signatures. That number right now is 425,059. If you collect that many valid signatures, and the Secretary of State, the Bureau of Elections, Board of State Canvassers makes a determination that you've collected enough signatures, that immediately qualifies it for the ballot. So a constitutional amendment goes straight to the ballot once it's qualified, and that means voters in November can decide whether it passes or not. In order to pass, it needs a majority of votes in that election.
All right. So another question, I don't know if you're able to dive into this or not, but so with the leaked draft opinion, the governor and the attorney general, Dana Nessel and Governor Whitmer, have come forward and said they are supportive of women's access to abortion care, and also said that they will not enforce the 1931 law. What does that look like in practice if the opinion does come forward in the way that it was presented in the draft leak? What does that look like in practice and in reality for Michiganders?
I think first, I think we're very fortunate that our leaders at the highest level, so state government, are supportive of the right to abortion, are supportive of everyone and women and pregnant people being able to access the care they need legally. So we need elected officials to fight for that right and be supportive of it and use all of the power that they have to protect those important rights to health care. But we also need to establish the legal framework so that it leaves no doubt that then those rights are not then at the whim of elected officials and who is in office at any given time. So it's essential that we also secure the legal right to abortion in this state, and that's what can be done through these lawsuits. Hopefully, in a final determination of those lawsuits, or also hopefully as well through amending the Michigan Constitution to protect the right to reproductive freedom.
Okay. And similar with that, after the draft leaked, there's been kind of a ripple effect throughout some of the state legislatures and even in the U.S. Congress. Some concerning threats to, like you said earlier, fertility care, infertility care, and also people are trying to limit access to contraceptives. Is there anything like that in Michigan that has been concerning or threatening to that, or can we just speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, so a couple of things. This 1931 law that I've alluded to has it has some concerning language in it that could call into question what the legality or availability of medication for abortion would be in the state when Roe is overturned. That's something that we have asked the courts to clarify. We need the courts to clarify what that means, because that law is old. It uses outdated language. Before medication abortion existed in the way that it does now, where it is incredibly safe and an important healthcare option that folks need to be able to have access to. What is also concerning, though, is in this overturning of Roe that we are expecting, that it is not just going to stop there. What would be what is at risk beyond Roe is our right to privacy. What this decision is doing is calling into the fundamental right to privacy that we all in this country have enjoyed thanks to some of these Supreme Court decisions over the last 50, 60, 70 years. And the same arguments behind Roe that have been fundamental in that Roe decision are the same rights that guarantee access to your constitutional right to accessing birth control, to gay marriage, other non-discrimination laus. So, it's not just abortion that's on the line here. We're looking at an eventual real threat to your right to access contraception too.
And so with the 1931 law, I just think in clarification, that means that any form of abortion care would be criminalized, correct?
So the law does have an exception written into it for the life of the mother. Now, what this means, though, is that's undefined. And what that means is you've now put some very scary language and some non-medical language into law and the interpretation of that is going to be up to the physician who's with their patient, and that physician to determine, what does life mean? Is my patient in critical enough health right now that their life is in danger? And they have to make that determination with the threat of a felony hanging over them, because all abortion care other than for the life of the mother would be criminalized, and they have to make that decision. And that's no decision anyone wants. Would you want to, for any other form of healthcare, would you ever want to go to your doctor and when you need care, have them trying to think through, now, is my patient sick enough? Like, could I be charged with a crime for providing care that could preserve their health or their life that I know that they need as a medical professional? So this is this law invites a lot of gray area that interferes in really that doctor-patient relationship and medical providers being able to provide the care that they know their patients need in their best judgment.
And the next question I have is a little bit broad, so if I need to narrow it down, I can do that. But with the internet and social media, there is a variety of information out there, and there's also a lot of misinformation. So I didn't know if there was any common myths or misconceptions about abortion access or abortion care that you would want to address, or clarify that is definitely spreading misinformation or anything.
Well, I think I think what abortion care means as health care is often misunderstood. We're at a place where 1 in 4 women will have an abortion in their lifetime. There is a myriad of reasons, and all good reasons, why someone may decide to discontinue a pregnancy. The majority of people who have abortions are already parents. They already know what it takes to parent a child, and they're making informed decisions. And anyone who's having an abortion, they're making an informed decision about their health care that should be honored and respected. Abortion is certainly a very moral issue, and it's up for all of us as individuals to decide what's best for us. But the government's role here should not be restricting what we know is life-saving healthcare, what we know is important healthcare for folks to access. So when we talk about abortion in this legal framework and your right to abortion, really down to the root of it, we're talking about, does the government have a right to interfere in these most intimate decisions that we make about our life that have the greatest impact over our futures, our health, our economic well-being, our educational, our education. So that's really at the root of it, and I think that is often misunderstood.
All right. Well, those are all the questions that I see and that I have. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. I know there's so many different aspects of what's going on about reproductive rights right now. So I wanted to take the opportunity on a Friday just to bring forth the information about the 1931 law, the Michigan lawsuit, and then also a little bit about the ballot initiative and the draft opinion. So just wanted to, bring some information forward. But thank you again, Merissa. I don't know if you have any parting words.
Just thank you all for spending the morning with us. Really appreciate it. If you have more questions, if you'd like to learn more, just encourage you to reach out, please. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.